It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. In this, watching CBS this morning's. It's E251. Um, it's a day after what they refer to it as the Christmas pageant in the local Episcopalian church, where Anthony was asked to be Joseph. Alexander and Daniel showed up. Again, in the ways of this world, where I'm in this time capsule or time frame, and it's whatever, and it's whatever. Could have been different, but it is at this point, whatever it is. Um, I brought Alexander before what I would refer to as an elder or a wise man. Um, he had the beard of such, even though he was a younger gentleman. And um, so I introduced him. I said, "You are of a different um, appreciation of life." I said, "So for this," I said, "I'll introduce myself." I said, "I am," um, I said, "I was born under the infinity symbol and the Trinity symbol." I said, "I then birthed the same in my son, and this is Alexander James," and I introduced him as such. Um, and so I said, it's something really important. I said, cosmologically, I duplicated my own symbol and system. Um, and now I have my son. So left it just at that very light note. I mean, just in whatever context. But in all seriousness, I don't know how else to introduce. I mean, again, I call it an escalator. Representative showed up, but truthfully, in the house of the infinity, the house of the sun, the house of August, these are important things, except some of the television is alerting me that it could be misconstrued under some other logical programming that makes no sense to me whatsoever. In this community of humans that argue about everything just to destroy things, I don't really see them building much useful anything. I see a lot of waste and inefficiency. I'm inefficient, and I really need co-efficiency. So, would I like to have my hair done, makeup on, to be in better physical condition? Yeah. So I'm going out for 2 hours of running best that I can in the physical condition that I'm in after the series of medical events that happen, with very little help from what calls itself professionals. Um, so I'm trying to get back into a better health paradigm. Um, but as far as more dignified clothing, I don't have resources. People don't donate me clothing. I don't have money or resources. I don't even have an entrance to a building, like a physical brick and mortar building, where I can open a door and go sit in the chair in front of one of the employees of the union and even have a conversation. I don't even know what their names are. That's how out of touch they've been. Um, so here we are in whatever I've been doing in order to explain my world and what my time capsule looks like from a human documentary kind of a way, um, since there's nothing dignified that I have access to except for this Mother Lindsay and Father Carl, for which I see on Sundays at this point. And of course, the only other dignifieds I see are my children, although I dare not tell what I sat once. I thought about this morning, like, go back to that memory of sitting under the cover of darkness, invited onto this private beach on the island. Whoever invited me there, not relevant. And sitting on that open gate with other people that had his back and my back while we sat there under this cover of darkness, whoever they were, and had that very respectful conversation. And that's what dignified looked like to me, and what respectable looked like, and what I wanted my future to look like, and who I wanted to father my children looked like. Not what actually was acted upon in this forced and derailed into some undignified position and with no direction in order to get to a dignitary or dignified, because they don't exist at this level where I am. So sitting, I know some sit behind a gate and they're protected, and then they need to be inspired. And then there's those outside the gate, which at times they're called conspires. And then there's the one-time meeting sitting at the gate that I had, in that truck reference that I used yesterday, which was, it was under the cover of darkness. So, but again, while I was there should have been satellite image. I mean, or could have been collected at that point if he needed to keep it for whatever in the same time and space in a quantum entanglement that may come into handy in the future. I don't know. Again, to male-female relationship, I have my female position as Infinity Trinity, and I now have a male position, Infinity Trinity, but it's within, I created cosmically, and it's also generational. Considering that the infinity I needed as a male companion partner and family representative, I have no idea what happened. None whatsoever. But this morning on CBS, they put up this woman who uses visual art to teach people, but in, I think they consider them socially respectable communities like Navy SEALs and a couple of other places, since some of the social workers at the degregate level that that function somehow around me, they like to use their power to hurt people like myself because they've done it repeatedly, and they're a local problem.
I use works of art to teach everybody, from everyday people to those for whom looking is the job, like Navy SEALs and homicide detectives and trauma nurses. The fact is that no matter how skilled you might be at looking, you still have so much to learn about seeing. Because we all think we get it.
So interesting. I want to keep watching that. That is New York Times bestselling author, lawyer, and art historian Amy Herman. She teaches people that looking at art can sharpen their brains. Herman has worked, as you just heard her say, with senators, with Navy SEALs, the FBI, and top CEOs to improve their critical thinking skills, and doing so using art. Now she's adapted her 2016 book, Visual Intelligence for Kids and Teens. Smart, Use Your Eyes to Boost Your Brain is published by Simon & Schuster, which, like CBS, is part of Paramount Global, and Amy joins us now. Amy, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I think the first question that people will have, of all the ways you can improve critical thinking...
And for me, this inspire narrative, there's always been, in a tribe, in a group, in a whatever, there's always some fight for power. So I've heard throughout the ages. but in a celestial body kind of a way, in time and space, where you have to create something out of nothing. In this area, the symbol 8 stands for the infinity. In this area, socially acceptable and easily recognizable, the 3 is the Trinity. Also, if you turn the 3 on its side, it becomes either an M or a W for the West. But anyhow, in mastery. So there's that. Then, as a female, to create that exact moment in space and time with a layover that is unlike any other genetic and timing and anatomical in time and space. Again, like, this is God science, God particle conversation at CERN concerned, for gestational purposes, and 2 clocks coexisting as one body for a brief period, and then birthing into 2 separate systems, but still coexisting in time and space within a relatively easy manner in order to speak on. But again, it's infinity and it's Trinity related. He has the 5th, he's got the 5, I got the 78. So, again, more significance, but not in like everyday speak. But the infinity and the Trinity is pretty much, as far as if you have to hierarchy humanity, the infinity is 2 balanced bubbles with a attachment, which would be umbilical at this point, for my conversation. But then there's also this yin yang, the male female energy. So again, it's just what I was born with and what I gave birth to. It's important in hierarchy of things and in voicing concern and which pieces do you listen to. And I mean, there's something that's going on outside of my ability to recognize, but I have celestial body importance. I just don't know how they organize or how to even have that kind of conversation as an individual amongst large area groups that seem to be totally ignoring or picking and choosing who and how in the hierarchy of things, like almost as if they're trying to reorganize hierarchy. That's anarchy.
Thinking, why use art?
One of the reasons we love to use art to teach people is because everybody sees something. Everybody sees something, and people don't think of art as anything beyond being on a museum wall. But we can actually use the power of art and human creativity to solve problems, help people fix things, and there's no language barrier. Art speaks to everybody regardless of what language you speak.
You gave a lot of examples in your book, and I'm just happy to say, or embarrassed to tell you, I failed nearly every one of them. I only got one right out of the whole book because I started playing the game myself. And I pulled one I thought was interesting because you said, look at this set of splotches or blots, you called it. Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, what do you see? Can you put that up, John? Because I studied this very, very hard. So, Nate, what do you see? Tony, what do you see when you just at first glance?
Black and white initially.
Black and white.
I kind of see like a mouse peering down on some sort of a wreck.
A mouse peering down. Well, what you're really seeing there is a cow's face.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen it, I can see it very, very clearly.
Wow.
Yeah, but I studied it. I went back and forth, and I said, "What is this here to teach me? How does being able to identify things? Because you focus on visual intelligence.
Right.
That's your whole thing. You want us to be visually intelligent.
Right.
Why is that important?
Visual intelligence means seeing what other people don't
see,
and also gaining clarity from multiple perspectives.
Wait, is that an intelligent human being that's at an educated level that I have no access to, who is saying that what I do may have importance and relevance in the world and it's not crazy? That's interesting. I knew they existed somewhere. I just had no idea how they organized or constructed themselves since I have no access to them.
Understanding that no two people see anything the same way. You're wearing a red dress,
Yes.
right? We can all agree that you're wearing a red dress,
Yes.
but the red that each of us sees is very different. So the first time I encountered that cow exercise, I did the same thing you did. It looks like a bunch of splotches.
Yeah.
What am I looking at? And the person sitting next to me said, "How can you not see the cow in that picture?" And I said, "Cow?" And then they outlined it, and I thought, if I'm not seeing this, what else am I missing?
Yeah.
And the fact that she saw it immediately and I saw nothing kind of scared me.
Yeah.
I personally saw a horse, but again, it's my whatever. I mean, I see a cow once they mention a cow, but I thought it was a horse's face, but here we are. But they're teaching it as a cow. So again, respectful of whatever level they agreed upon at the clearinghouse of the publisher.
Me too, but what should we learn from this, Amy? Because you said it can help you be better parents. You've helped homicide detectives. You've helped radiologists. I thought that was interesting because you help everybody to see things
It
differently.
would help the divide in this country.
Yeah. See it like I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just going into a situation for kids on the playground, parents going into a conference, knowing in the boardroom, in the courtroom, in the operating room, nobody's seeing things the way you do. So how do we fix that?
Yeah.
Be able to communicate more effectively what it is that we're seeing.
Wow.
Instead of saying, "You are so wrong," or "How can you say that?" Tell them what you see, ask them what they see, and that's how you hone your visual intelligence.
Well, because you say people think you see with your eyes, not your brain, but really both of them have to work or are working together, you say.
They are working together.
And on that, right now, I don't know, I mean, as dignified as I can be, but certainly not how I prefer to be dressed. When I was in real estate, going on appointments, showing up in front of whoever booked the appointments, or however they found me to call me in for one-on-one meeting, as an interview almost. It was always two-piece suits, for the most part. And most of the time it was pant suits, P-A-N-T. Just because it was easier going on these appointments alone in pantsuits. When I worked at the bank, I only wore skirts, but there I was on surveillance camera and there was a larger population. It was in a lobby of a bank. It was much different. I felt safer anyhow wearing a skirt in that situation, but going to these other appointments, pants just worked better. But again, not work that I would have ever wanted to do had the dignified actually gotten me where I needed to be for proper capitulating.
That the retina, which is, you learn in third grade, that's the thing in the back of the eye that flips your images upside down. The retina is part of the brain, not part of the eye.
Yeah.
And so by the time you're flipping images, you're already thinking about them and thinking about assumptions and associations and experiences. And again, no two people see anything the same way. No two people observe.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to communicate more effectively, as you said, even in Congress.
Yeah, you're right about that. So you're saying that we need to ask better questions about what we see. What do you mean by that?
When we think about how we formulate our questions, look, you ask people.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I know Ancient World is most likely, based on what I've seen here, the ones who are running the bank account at this point. At least that's the way that it feels while I'm stuck in modern, what I call nincompoops. And I have no idea how it got this degraded, and lax. But in certain contexts, they appreciate that, and others, they want it more stiff penalty punishment and swift justice. So again, I've heard it, I've gone through it, I traverse the system as best I can with pragmatic whatever. in rationale when the rationale exists, with me in the correct hierarchy of conversation and coefficients asking the correct questions. So I know how this area looked, being that I wore pantsuits, I wore skirts below the knee, when in this modern world. I understand ancient world, depending on which area of ancient, which is why I don't deflect and I don't expect, but I'm not ready to paint a portrait of what this area was or wasn't until I get to where I'm sitting at the gate again, ready to go behind the gate, and then whatever for my safety. Because I know as Infinity and Trinity, what I'm currently traversing through is not correct.
Ask people questions all the time, right?
Right.
But you have to think about what you want to say and what you don't want to say. And you have to think about framing your question to elicit exactly the information that you need for your purpose. Because one thing we can all agree on, nobody has time to waste, right? And something else I've learned is how you look at something is fundamental to what you see. So if you've had a bad morning, the dog is thrown up, you're in a bad mood, that's going to affect how you see things. And just knowing that is going to
That's
improve
so good.
how you communicate.
It's definitely made you a heck of a communicator. I'm looking forward to giving this book to my teenager. Amy Herman, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Smart is on sale wherever you like to buy your books.
I like the title, Smart.
I'm a little confused, guys. It says we'll be right back. It also says that'll do it for us.
That does it for us. They're saying we gotta go.
Yeah.
Amy, you were so good.
Yeah.
We gotta go right
You get the
now.
club.
So since no doors are being opened or have ever been opened, there was a letter issued, but so early in my youth. Apparently, I saw yesterday on Kelly and Ryan, they have this thing in the world called an adjudicator. I've had an adjudicator a few times. One at the swim class, the swimming lanes that were open in like 7th, 8th grade, before Jackie Lyberg disappeared. She was my only connection to Nikki, because wherever her and her father went while they were living here, in whatever he did, Nikki would always seek her out to ask how I was, which is an important factor that I know people knew that I was here and that cared. I just have no idea how it went from route to dignified to completely like homeless shelter. It feels like. So I know that people in the world know, like this woman, about observances, looking for patterns in the field and in the communication artwork that the shoestring is putting together at whoever is in charge of networking and broadcasting. I have no idea. I wouldn't even know how to research. I mean, like I talked to Alexander yesterday. He said that I said, what are you doing for the rest of the day, Sweets? And he said, I'm doing a research paper. He says, I have to do a research paper. I said, on what? He said, Frankenstein. I go, and then he told me that was a book. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. But again, like, they're going through school. Should have been a second learning opportunity for me, although it wasn't, because of whatever's going on with the problem that again, got stuck to my shoe. I don't really know how to explain it. And toilet paper from 5/15/15 that I never wanted. So Alexander's learning how to write research papers. I wrote a thesis once, but it was on Walt Disney, and it was with Mr. Healy and Dr. Egan. It was Dr. Egan and Mr. Healy. They had me write during study hall, they had me write a thesis. It was the only one I'd ever been asked to write, and it was under the direct guidance of them in teaching me how to construct thought, how to put it on index cards, and then layer it, and then to put it into some kind of written format. But there was only one thesis ever written, and it was under their guidance. There was another gentleman, Scott something. They kept calling him Scott, but I don't know what his last name was. And he would come in and out of, it was in the history, it was the History Teachers Lounge is where it was inside of Cold Spring Harbor. And that was my junior year. But apparently they have Alexander writing a lot of research papers. I don't even know. Like, again, they have him housed differently than me, and I don't really have much access to him. And I don't even know the questions to ask when I get him near. It's been really troubling on so many levels, spiritually and physically. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies, broken. Oh, and the last thing is, they have this thing that they talk about, the speed of light. I was reading something yesterday, a different version of, I looked up on Google what hypersonic means on the Maxi iPad version of intelligence and visual art that they're trying to teach in a, I guess, agreed upon by I don't know who. And they showed the hypersonic 3D model of how it affects the topography, like the topography lines, if I was looking at a cartography of some sort, and then different color immersions, and how hypersonic looks from that context of multi-textural in one image. And then that brought me to weather patterns. Then I'm thinking, they have this phrase, speed of light. And I'm like, right, so if the transmission of the speed of light either increased, like the wavelength, because in this area, the light bulbs that they've brought out to the public went from like a soft light in ambient lighting, with like a yellow undertone, into this what I call violent light, VIOLENT, which is like a blue violet, and this bright hot white that actually hurts the eyes. It happens on the TV screen. It happens outside of the window. And I'm like, so if the speed of light is being transmitted in wavelength to a dangerous level that is affecting the physiology of the human, I mean, I can see on my skin without makeup on these spots where they say it's UVA, UVB light, and then it has a reaction. If at Planetary, for fighting over the most ridiculous things, and they're not following hierarchy and way of managing things, if that's taken so much of their time while Alexander and I are here, I mean, he's 17, I'm 44. That's a lot of time wasted on things that really never mattered. And so in that context, if the speed of light and transmission has increased so much into this dangerous category, who's going to bring it up? Where do you bring it up to? And who do you speak to? I mean, like, who takes care of that level of complaint department and know, like, it's a real thing? And I can see the differences. It's affecting my health. It's affecting others' health, but I dare not speak for anyone else but he and I at this point.